What up? What up? What up? This Ibn Webb, Ib Webb, Quran, some here. Official thanks thing I have going down here. Dana Pappas, very important person when we're talking about high school sports and making sure things are getting done correctly here. Dana is actually over the National Federation of State High Schools Association here, which is a national thing here, which oversees pretty much any and everything when we're talking about high school athletics, et cetera here. Dana is the director of officiating services. Dana has been very instrumental in regards to myself and my partner, Zarel Stallings, over at the Association of Black Sports Officials, and a lot of the work that we've been doing over there. Um, I just wanted to say thank you, for Dana just taking time out to want to, share her walk, her journey, what have you here. And I'm looking forward to just talking to her. So hold tight.
Hi,
Hello there. Hello there. How are you?
great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for taking time out to do this with me. I am honored.
No, I am. I appreciate your patience. Sorry, I was a couple of minutes late. We were wrapping up a meeting in house, so I was like, I gotta go. I have a meeting at 11.
Cool. So what I do here basically again, this the show podcast thing I've been doing is just been just out of pretty much a labor of love, just having some fun. People I know, don't know, what have you here, just hearing a little bit about their walk or what have you here. So I might ask a question or two here. If you don't want to answer, feel free not to. But trust me, I'm not TMZ or nothing like that. I don't need. You won't become a trending topic or anything crazy.
Unless people are really bored.
Yes. Nah. So I appreciate this data here.
Absolutely.
Gonna start off as far as Ashley. Where'd you grow up at?
Grew up, born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico, my entire life until about a year ago when I moved to Indianapolis for the job here at the National Federation. So I was a kind of a townie in Albuquerque, grew up there, never left until the right opportunity presented itself, and then packed up and headed east.
And then before I had niece, how would you describe your child? How was you as a kid?
How was my childhood?
Yeah, how was you as a kid?
Um, so my parents always say that from like age 1 to 4, I was very, very quiet. And then when I turned 5, I never shut up. So apparently I started out shy and then kind of came out of my shell, but grew up with my parents and my sister. I have an older sister, and it was just the 4 of us. We grew up in a small house from kind of humble beginnings, and really grew up in a kind of a rough part of Albuquerque, and I'm still really proud of that today, just from the standpoint of it helped me at an early age to understand adversity. It helped me to understand diversity, and I'm so grateful that I was able to grow up in a community where everybody didn't look like me. And that was something that as I get older, I think I appreciate it even more, because it was just, growing up with people who I didn't feel like I necessarily looked like them, but I didn't know that. It was just, they were family. They were always part of my life. Growing up, I didn't really understand that I was Greek, Italian, and Serbian. I always thought I'm from New Mexico. How I'm just New Mexican. What else could I be? So I think that having that rich experience at such a young age was something that really helped prepare me for the real world, because I was able to see that not everybody is exactly like us. Not everybody has the same family structure. It's something that's really, really special. And I'm so grateful for my parents, because they were kind of the parents for everybody in the neighborhood. So if people needed something, they would come to our house and hang out with my folks, and they were mom and dad for everybody. And I'm so appreciative that they were always welcoming. It didn't matter who you were, where you were from, come on in. My mom was going to cook you something to eat, and we were going to hang out and just, have a good night together regardless. So grew up in Albuquerque, went to a place called Highland High School, which at the time was the most culturally diverse school in all of New Mexico, which is something that was really excellent for me, because there were people from Puerto Rico and Laos and Vietnam, you name it, they were there. And I was just so excited to be able to talk to them and find out their experiences and how they came to the United States, and just really still proud of that background and that upbringing. And I try to stay as connected to that community as I can, even though I've moved away. So it's just love my home, love my childhood. Happy to talk about those memories because they're very fond.
I could see that. I could see that. Activity wise, I mean, sports, anything else caught your attention being young here that you gravitated to?
Absolutely. So I actually loved running track. I was a 400 and 800 runner. I was too slow to run anything short of the 400 and didn't want to run anything longer than an 8. Going into high school, I was having a lot of knee pains and went to a pre-participation physical and found that my knees were so bad that I kind of had the choice to stop running or to not be able to walk by the time I was in my mid-20s. So at age 14, that's a pretty big decision to have to make. So I chose to just step away from the track, and I ended up going into athletic training just to stay close to sports because it was something that was so important to me. As a kid, 5 years old, I told my dad I wanted to be a middle linebacker playing youth football. And my dad was like, yes. My mom vetoed that very quickly because I was kind of a renty kid. I don't know why a linebacker was a position I chose. That's probably what scared mom off. But, stayed active in high school and activities as far as, student government and yearbook and peer educators and everything else. And definitely athletic training was something that was important to me because of the love of sport. I didn't want to go away from it, but I was physically, I just couldn't do it. But of course, that was one of those things. I'd watch the Olympics. I had to leave the room for the 4 and 8. Yeah. It was something I loved so much. But I've always been a fan of athletics. It's something that was huge in my relationship with my dad growing up and still today. I mean, now that we're 1,200 miles apart, we watch games together on Zoom and, cheer for our beloved and painful Dallas Cowboys. And, my dad was teaching me to draw up plays in the backyard when I was a little girl, teaching me how to throw a spiral, all of those things. So definitely grew up with a love for sports and had to find a different way to express that love when I couldn't run anymore. So that was really why I wanted to do. I was I don't think I had the hand-eye coordination for anything else, but I could run. So when that was taken away from me, I really had to find other outlets, and luckily I was able to do so.
That's interesting. Again, never knew that here. Then you speak about New Mexico here, so there was no chance in the world with college you was leaving the state, huh?
For me, it was a matter of we couldn't afford it. So I was able to get an academic scholarship to UNM and went to school there and then lived at home, did all of that because I didn't want to incur a whole lot of debt. So I stayed at home with my family and worked full time, did all of that so that I could pay for my books. But really, I think that, looking back, it was probably a better course for me just because I was able to really focus on school. I did work full time, but I was able to not have to worry about the pressure of paying rent or anything. So, at the time it wasn't cool because I didn't leave the state, but, as I got older and realized I didn't have all that debt to pay off, I was pretty excited. So, and then I stayed at UNM. I went back and got my master's in sport administration after working at the New Mexico Activities Association, which is really where I got my start in athletic administration. I started working there in 1997. Went back to work on my master's in sport admin in 2000 and finished in 2002. So it was, it's funny because you go to undergraduate school and you think you know what you want to do. I thought I was going to be a lawyer, went for political science because that was a natural path into law. And then I started working at the New Mexico Activities Association right out of high school, kind of on a fluke almost. And fell in love with what I was doing, fell in love with officials, which has been the majority of my life has been working with contest officials. And once I realized, sports has always been what I wanted to do. As a kid, I thought it was going to be coaching the Dallas Cowboys. That obviously didn't work out for me. So I had to figure out another, again, you always get detoured, but I think a lot of times you get detoured in the direction that you were supposed to go in the first place. So that's something that's been great, is spending my entire career working with athletics and especially interscholastic athletics, which is such a special niche within this industry.
Yeah. And then obviously you mentioned the whole administrative piece and the first job that you had around the activities, and obviously that jumped over to other things here. Like, what was it about the administrative piece that just drew you in?
It's funny because there's so much of administration that is sitting in front of a computer and typing and sending emails and doing all of that. But for me, it was all about the relationships I was able to form with, especially in my role with contest officials back in New Mexico, but also with coaches, with athletic directors, and being able to not just get to know them in their profession or in their role, but to get them to know them as human beings. And it's something that I'm still very proud of, is the fact that I was in a state that was small enough that I could really get to know my officials and get to know their families and their spouses and their kids. And I mean, I was there at the NMAA long enough that I saw kids, get born, go to high school, graduate, and get married, because I was there for 24 years. So to see those life cycles of people and really develop that family outside of my own biological family is something that was the draw. It really wasn't the work so much, it was the people. And every time I had a day where I was like, what am I doing, when I was on hour 117 of a week, I would remember the officials, and I would remember that those were the people I was fighting for and advocating for, and they were family. And that was something that really was the attachment and what kept me going when the days were not so great.
Nah, definitely. And I know just being in New Mexico, some people might be like, oh, there is sports in New Mexico, huh? Oh,
exactly.
Yeah. But but with that being said, though, I mean, the positions you held and the people you had to get in contact with, I mean, you've seen things nationally, internationally since then. Like, there's no difference in the world, I would assume, except for maybe just the numbers, I would assume.
Absolutely. And I think, every state has their sport. New Mexico is probably a basketball state if we had to pick one, just because we have University Arena, which is a storied place, because of the NCAA tournament in 1982. So I think that kind of put us on the map for basketball. But high school sports are just special from the perspective of, in many places, especially in smaller states like New Mexico, high school sports are the only show in town. It's what you have to do on a Friday night. So seeing how special that is and seeing that community being able to rally around it is something that's just, you don't get to see it anywhere else. And there's, having the band play and the cheerleaders and all of that, just the whole experience. I mean, mom selling stuff at the concession stand, all of that. So I think that that's the cool thing about high school sports. But it was funny how you said people are going, New Mexico has sports. It's more like New Mexico's a state, because that was the big stumbling block. Was that, what do you mean you're not paying international shipping? I'm like, it's a state, I promise. But every state has a different degree of fanaticism, whether it's Friday Night Lights, Texas football, or Iowa wrestling, or whatever the case may be. Every state has something, and the great thing about the high school setting is that it is such a rallying point for communities, and it's a place for kids to stay engaged, and a place for parents to be able to see their kids excel. So I think that that's why, when I started my career in athletics, I thought I wanted to go on to the NFL or to something else at the professional setting. But I love high school athletics, and I love what it does for kids. It's transformative, and it's something that stays with them for their lives.
Now, all those years being there, somehow you made your way to Indianapolis here. Like, how hard of a decision was that?
From a personal perspective, it was hard, just because my whole family is still in New Mexico. I'm a total daddy's girl. I miss my parents like crazy. I miss my sister, all of my friends. But the job is what drew me. It was a dream job. It was being able to work with officials at the national level and try to affect change, but not just affect change, but figure out ways to really be their cheerleader and their supporter, because officials don't have enough of that. They don't have enough support in some cases. So being able to have the position of working with officials full time and not getting phone calls from parents and coaches yelling at me at night, that's been really cool, because a lot of my time spent kind of in a negative way. It was emails about how bad the officials were or whatever. So being able to do so much positive, but understanding that there's still so much work to do. It's one of those things, no matter how much I do, there's always more work to be done. And that's okay. That challenge is something that I really look forward to, because I know that it's impacting officials, and that, that's been my lifeblood for more than half of my life on earth and for my entire professional career. So I just want to work hard for officials, and, moving to Indiana has been different, but it's really been different in the best of ways. My husband and I are huge live music fans, so we're in like the Mecca here. We could go 4 hours and hit I don't know how many concerts. So we've just been seeing a lot of concerts since we moved here, and professional sports and minor league sports, everything is here. So we're really living in a pretty perfect place. It used to be driving 6 hours to get to Denver or Phoenix. Now we drive 6 hours and we're in 4 states. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not used to actually crossing this many borders, just a 6 hour car ride. So it's different here, but it's been a really good life change, not just job wise, but for my marriage, for both of us. It's been a really good shift. It is hard being away from family. Thank God for duos and FaceTime and all of that stuff, because at least I can see their faces. Yes. It's nice to talk to them on the phone, but seeing their expressions and being able to see the love on their faces means everything to me. So God bless technology when it works.
Most definitely here. What's been some of your challenges from the national level around officiating or just being over at the NFHS?
So I think the biggest challenge is obviously the shortage, and that's hitting every level of sport at this time. You would always think NCAA would have tons of officials, people knocking down the doors. They're seeing issues with that as well. So the shortage is obviously number one, but within that, there's so many issues. And you were at our consortium in April, so you got to hear a lot of those and kind of the external barriers and the internal barriers. But this first year, because I just finished my first year and it went by so quickly, but in the first year, it's really been getting a handle on the needs of our member state associations as far as officiating goes. Training and education of officials is at the forefront, and that is a huge part of the recruitment and retention. So looking at all those aspects and really figuring out how to implement programming for our state associations, but also forming partnerships with the NCAA, with NASO, with NGBs, with entities like yours. I mean, we've had great conversations, but finding ways to partner to make officiating a place where everybody can go, everybody is welcome, and also really looking at ways to, keep the ones we have and make it a healthy, safe, fun environment for them, but also bring new ones in where they feel fostered and mentored through a process that can be daunting. When you come in as a new official, as you know, there's a whole lot of information that you just don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. So I think that's such a huge challenge, is just not just the rules and mechanics, X's and O's education, but the education of officials as far as the business of officiating. So, the challenges have just been trying to wrap my head all around it. And then once I have ideas, trying to prioritize what I want to do first, because there's so much. And it's like, how do I get my arms around all of this? So trying to pick those priorities and work down the list from there. So that's really been the biggest challenge, but it's been great. Everybody in NGBs and national organizations, excuse me, have been so willing to help. People just want to be partners in something that is good for officials, but ultimately good for the game.
No, I appreciate that. And I know you mentioned the consortium back in April. I know it's only been a few months since then. Have you seen any slight changes, if anything? It could be something major, but have you seen a difference as far as organizations and associations, or even yourself just coming off of that and having time to kind of decompress and process all what took place?
I think that what's been the most positive is the momentum has continued. So the conversation didn't just die once the consortium was over. After the consortium was over, we did 8 sectional follow-ups online where we allowed anybody who wanted to join, those could come in. Then we did some one-on-one meetings where we got together with the entities that were in attendance. And of course, that took us all the way through June. So it was just, everything is still very recent. We're getting ready to release our toolkit here at the end of next week. And then in mid-September, we're launching our behavior campaign, which is something we're really hoping continues as that energy around the athletic atmosphere. And it's bigger than sportsmanship. It is behavior. It's how we're treating our fellow man and fellow woman. So that's something we're making available at all levels. And we're really hoping that that the youth sports level takes a hold of it, because we know that's where a lot of the issues are, where we're losing officials, is at that youth sports level. So we definitely have our own problems, but we need to make sure that we're we're collaborative. So I think that the fact that there's been so much positivity around a collaborative movement to address this issue has been fantastic, and it hasn't lost momentum since April, which thank goodness. And then in January, we're having our consortium 2.0, where we're bringing in athletic directors, principals, superintendents, facility directors for youth sports places, all of those, so we can talk about, here's what we found out from the officiating side, and here's where you fit in. So it's kind of the first initiative that's come from officials to everybody else. Generally, everybody else comes up with something and the officials carry the banner, but they're not part of the conversation. So this is the officials leading the conversation about how do we make high school sports fun and safe for everybody. Again, we need to return to that.
Nah, definitely. It's interesting you mentioned the safe part. I mean, just the incident that happened a couple of weeks ago with the coach losing his life, and that's stemming around my understanding about a call that was made or something around officiating. I mean, it still breaks my, just even me sitting here talking about it. Like, you got a gentleman here, these what, 8, 9-year-old youth,
Right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And that, that's the sad thing, is people just lose sight over the fact that it's a game for kids, and the violence and it's not just against officials, it's against coaches, as we saw. And every time I see those incidents, your heart breaks, because that's something those kids are never going to forget. It will scar them for life, that they saw their coach get gunned down. And that's the kind of stuff we can't have happen, obviously. And that's the extreme. We just can't have people who are yelling and screaming and threatening and doing all of that. But then when it actually becomes physical action, it's terrifying. It absolutely, and it's heartbreaking.
Even with that said, I mean, I know states have done things legislative wise. I mean, I don't know on a federal level will that come to light, as far as just having laws placed on a national level. I mean, again, I know each state does their own thing, but obviously, on the federal level supersedes, some of the state stuff. Man, I'm hoping there's some stuff that comes into legislation around protecting, officials, coaches, et cetera here. Because again, we're all going into these events to enjoy, to watch, and go home.
Exactly, and that's what it should be. So Dr. Niehoff, our CEO, she and I have talked a great deal about trying to get some movement on the national front in terms of legislation, because right now I think there's 22 states in the country who have some kind of additional protection for sports officials. In my opinion, that's not enough. And some of them it's like a misdemeanor, so people feel like, well, I'm just gonna get slapped on the hand anyway, so what does it matter? We had Christy Moore, who was the official down in I think she was Mississippi, who was assaulted in a 12U ball game, made a call that was the right call, and then gets punched in the face by a mom after a game, and the person was in jail for like 4 hours and $400 worth of bond and got out. And it's just like, what's the consequence really for this behavior? So Dr. Niehoff and I have talked quite a bit about trying to get some national legislation, or at least the conversation about it, because it's necessary. It's something that officials, even if they choose not to press charges, they have to know that there is protection for them, because they're sitting ducks. I mean, you look at baseball and softball umpires getting dressed in the parking lot out of the trunk of their car. That's not a desirable place to be. So how do we ensure, whether it's legislation that protects them or making sure that there's enough security on site to deal with it in the moment? Because many times there is no one out to protect them. They're just getting dressed, and they're in the middle of the open, and anybody can come in and have access to them. So that, that's the step one, is making sure that the facilities are doing a good job protecting them, and then really trying to find legislation so that there's some protection on the back end.
Definitely here. And I know, being in Indianapolis now, you're down the street, from the NCAA here. Like, how's those relationships been? Or is anything in particular coming out of them, or soon to come? But just how has that been to establish the relationship with NCAA?
And so we are working with the NCAA right now, kind of more on the recruitment side of things, and we're really looking to see how we can utilize each other's platforms to help, help me help you kind of thing. So really trying to work with them on the recruitment side. But the Division III NCAA conferences have done an amazing job. They had a big study. You saw the picture group presented at the consortium, and they've really looked at where the shortfalls are in terms of officiating. But they've done a lot with regard to in Division II and Division III. They're doing some player to ref programs where that'll help kind of infuse some numbers into the high school setting. But then that becomes an issue where we need to help the NCAA as well, where we're looking at state associations and asking them, who are some people who could be a college prospect? And then showing people how to go through that process, because those pathways are sometimes very confusing if you're just coming in. So there are people who come into officiating and they start with the NCAA and think that that's where they need to go. And it's like, no, you don't get to work the Final Four your first year.
Right.
You really need to start in high school. So we're really, between the two associations, we're really trying to figure out ways to educate people who want to be officials and make sure we're pointing them in the right direction. So if I'm an official with no experience and I go to the NCAA website, it's going to kick them now back to the NFHS so that we can start them out instead of trying to, point them in a direction that's not realistic for them. So much of our partnership in terms of officiating is really on the recruitment side. And then we're also trying to look at ways to incorporate some of the intramural programs that are on college campuses and reach out to them to work high school games, because there's a ton of intramural refs who just graduate from college and that's it. So we're all trying to find ways to help one another with replenishing the pipeline, and then once it's replenished, maintaining it, because that's been the hard part. Is it seems like there's a constant stream of officials who come in, but we lose them so quickly in those first 3 years that we're constantly retraining, and that's difficult, especially when we're short on trainers.
Have you seen any creative ways as far as people have done in regards to recruiting officials? I mean, just throughout on the national level, or has it pretty much been kind of the same thing along the lines here?
It's kind of been the same, and I think it's because everybody's been relying on themselves a little bit. So I think every state is set up so differently from an association standpoint, but also just the demographics of the state themselves. So I think that everybody's tried some methods, and they're just they're not necessarily working, but it's more not working on the retention side. So what we're really trying to do is encourage states to make sure they have mentorship programs, to make sure that they have some education for officials who are just coming in, so that they know what they're getting into, and talking to them about some of the soft skills that we talk about a lot with regard to game management and conflict resolution, but also as a new official, letting them know what they could run into, be it a fan behavior issue, or a coach who comes unhinged, or a player who becomes unhinged, or a partner who goes in the tank during a game, any of those things. So I feel like the more we can prepare officials before they put air in the whistle for the first time in a game setting, the better it's going to be. And we feel like nationally, that's kind of been where we need to bolster our efforts, is really trying to help those first year officials, but then also coming up with some ideas in terms of mentoring, diversity and inclusion, all of those kinds of things, and how really all of that put together helps our numbers. So again, it comes down to, how do I put this into bite-sized morsels so that I can come up with everything? And I sometimes I get a little too excited. I've got to back off and realize how many hours in the day and how much staff we have. But it's certainly something that our administration is completely supportive of, and it's just finding what we need to do first and who we need to target. Is it the new officials first, or is it the current officials that we need to retain? Like, just, are we putting the cart before the horse? So it's really just evaluating that and finding out those strategies. But I think the real innovation in all of this is going to be the fact that we're working together. Instead of, the NFHS has 51 member state associations. So instead of 51 member state associations doing things differently, let's start doing things together and help each other out, because the lack of that sometimes it's hard, especially when you have military who start officiating in one state and then they transfer and things are done so differently that they're, wait, I have to start all over. So we're talking about reciprocity agreements for officials who have been an official and they move. So we're trying to find things to eliminate barriers for officials, because that's why people either don't start in the first place or why they quit. So those are the things that we're really looking at.
Wanted to ask, as far, what's a typical day for you?
Let's see. So I leave my house. I live about 30 miles outside of Indianapolis. I leave the house at about 6:40 every morning and pull into our parking garage right around 7:10, 7:15. I get here and automatically start answering emails because they are the never-ending chore. A lot of my day is spent in meetings, and really a lot of the meetings are strategic with our partners outside of the office. So that's something I spend a lot of time in. It's answering calls, it's answering emails. It's a lot of thought processes, really. So, excuse me. That's really my day. I'm here all day. Usually leave around 5 and make the drive back home with much worse traffic than I have at 6:40 in the morning. But we do a lot of collaboration here as a staff, which is great. So we have a number of internal committees that we work together. I'm on our women's leadership team as well as our internal DEI committee. So a lot of our time is spent in meetings trying to work through those issues. We have our staff meetings every Monday morning. We have a director's meeting followed by an operations staff meeting, and really kind of get a feel for what everybody else is doing. So that way we make sure we're not working in conflict with one another. But really it's a lot of communication. I think that was the biggest kind of adjustment for me. Working at a state office, I spent a lot of time, working at events. So we'd be at state tournaments, or I'd be at local officials meetings. I was always spending time with officials. So that's the part I miss, is being able to be out, be around kids, first of all, but be around officials as well. So the adjustment to having more of an office job. So when people ask me to come speak at an event, I'm so excited because I get to travel and go be around my peeps. So
Yes.
yeah, those are the things I really like. So I've got a couple of speaking opportunities coming up next month, which I'm excited about. But really, it's serving, from my desk, a lot of liaison work with our state associations. So when they need things in terms of officials, we talk through those. And of course, we work with our COS, which is our Center for Official Services Online. So there's a lot of work done in that area, but a lot of it is right here at my desk or at somebody else's desk. So it's just a lot of collaboration, a lot of project management, a lot of planning, more of that than the actual face-to-face interaction, which has been the hardest part of being out of a state association.
Yeah. Then I know, and I hate that this what I'm about to ask is even a question I got to bring up, in regards to how important it is as far as to empower women and the ideal person. I mean, they will see your name and director of official, officiating services, to be like, someone just is ignorant and dumb. I don't even have a better word to say in regards to that, but just see that, but how important it is as far as the position you in, but also ensuring like you bringing up other women and, as far as with officiating and just everything that you do here.
It's huge, and it's funny that you say that because I get Mr. Pappas on emails quite a bit.
That's crazy.
All the time. In fact, on my signature line, I added my middle name. I was like, well, now it says Dana Marie, so people will know. Nope, still get Dear Sir or Dear Mr. Pappas a lot. I used to get offended, and now I just kind of, shrug my shoulders and answer the email. But the whole empowerment of women, it's huge. And we do have our women's leadership team, and we're really trying to create a safe space for females in state associations to have those conversations, to find mentors. But really, we're trying to do more to find more female coaches and officials within our state associations, because that number has dwindled so much. Coming from a state association, one of the things I always really focused on was making sure that our officiating staff represented who was in the state of New Mexico. So, making sure both gender, ethnicity, a little bit of everything, making sure that when kids in the stands watch a game, they see somebody who looks like them, because if they don't, they're never going to go into that. So understanding the importance of that, it helped a lot being a female commissioner of officials, because women were like, okay, I can do this. If she's in charge, I might get a fair shake, because there is that perception that you won't have a fair shake if you're female, if you're minority, whatever the case may be. So it helps people feel like it is a comfortable place. I talk a lot about homologous reproduction and going into fields because you see somebody else who looks like you. And a lot of times that just takes somebody asking if they want, if they're interested in a leadership role, if they're interested in participating in something. So with regard to women in particular, through our women's leadership team, we have a mentorship program where we email all the female administrators and state association staffs and ask them if they want to be a part of it, either as a mentor or a mentee. And like I said, sometimes you just need to extend the invitation. So being able to see these, not only the new women coming into state association staffs who want to be a part of it, but the number of women who still want to help, that want to bring that next generation through. And unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes women get to where they are and they just go, okay, well, I made it. Well, no, that's not good enough. It's your job. Once you crash through the glass ceiling, you got to pull the next generation up under you. So we're really trying from a federation standpoint to provide that support system for women in our state associations, not only on the staffs, but also in our coaching and officiating communities. So we're trying to do outreach there, very similar to what we're doing with our internal DEI team, trying to bring in more minorities into coaching, officiating, athletic administration, because it's necessary. Our population of athletic directors, coaches, and officials needs to mirror what athletes look like. And the athletic community is diverse, and we need to be as well at the administrative levels. So we're really trying to do good work in that area to show that sports are for everyone, that there's a space for everybody, regardless of age, gender, race, you name it. Everybody's welcome. So I think it's important for people to have someone they can reach out to who's going to be a willing ear, who's going to, if you need to scream at somebody for a minute because you're frustrated, then you need to know that you have somebody that you can have that relationship with. Because again, like I said earlier, it all goes back to the relationships we forge and making sure that we're good friends and we're good mentors for the people in our circle.
No, absolutely not. Thank you for this sharing your thoughts on that here. What with sports, what has it given you that sticks with you to this day?
I'm sorry?
With sports, what has it given you that sticks with you to this day?
Oh gosh. Sports are the best way for people to just grow as an individual, and that's myself included. As I mentioned earlier, I had to deal with adversity very young, figuring out that I couldn't run and trying to figure out how to do the thing that I love the most. Prepared me to deal with adversity probably younger than I really was ready for it. But also the responsibility that it gives you and the dedication and teamwork, it gives you so much structure. I think part of the regimentation of sports is something that for me is probably why I like officiating so much, because officiating is so structured. So I think that just all of the qualities you get from sport, and you hear it all the time. So we talk to kids all the time about how it makes you a better leader and how it makes you understand dedication, commitment, and responsibility, and all of those things. And when you say it out loud, sometimes you're like, well, everybody knows that. But when you actually look back at your life as a kid and then see how those values and those traits really are ever present in our lives as we become employees and spouses and aunts and uncles and all of those things, it's with you always. And I don't think that there's one particular moment or event. It's just the whole of being around sports my entire life and the respect I have for people who are coaches to this day. I mean, I'll see coaches from my high school days and I'll say, hey, coach, whatever. And they'll go, well, you could call me Bob now or whatever. I'm like, no, I can't, because
I'm the same.
It's so, I can't do it. Like, I've tried it. I'm like, no, I can't. I'm sorry. And it's always coach whatever, because it is a profession that I hold in such high esteem that it feels disrespectful. So I think that probably the biggest lesson, if there is one that I learned from sport, was that of respect. There's a million, but just respecting the game, respecting the people within it, but understanding, like, I think about the coaches from my high school and even those who didn't coach me. I know what a big part of the lives of all of my friends that they were, and how, in many cases it was a father figure for kids in my school. And them being able to have that relationship and knowing that those men and women made the next generation of men and women, how could you not respect that? I mean, so I think just that, seeing those people who are so willing to give back, be it coaches, officials, athletic trainers, athletic directors, those are people who are providing this whole other, that extracurricular aspect that really is what keeps so many kids engaged and involved in school. And some of the kids who might have gotten lost otherwise, they're going to school because they love to play soccer. But then they know that they have to go to class because they have to keep their grades up. So, you don't realize in the moment, as a kid, you're just going out there playing a game. But then as you get older, you realize how transformative those lessons are, because it's made so many people into the leaders that they are, into the citizens that they are. It's just, I love sports. It's, I'm so grateful that my dad we always joke, we always say I was the son he never had, because I was definitely raised as kind of the tomboy and always around dad and always learning about sports. And I'm so grateful. I never thought when I was 5 and 6 years old that it was going to be my life, but it is. And I think that that's just the coolest thing. There are days where I'm like, I get paid for this. It doesn't even seem fair because I love it so much. And that old adage of find something you love and you never work a day in your life. I feel that, like, I really, really do.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, can I put you on the spot a little bit?
Absolutely.
Yeah, with some random, not so random, either or kind of things here. So have a little bit of fun on the back end here.
I like it.
Cool. Twitter or Instagram?
Instagram.
Favorite sport to watch?
Hockey.
Favorite team?
In hockey or in general?
In general.
Dallas Cowboys.
I'll keep it current with them. Romo or Dak?
Dak.
When sports, you're not doing no sports, you're not working or anything here, what do you like to do? What do you do?
Live music, concerts. That's my favorite thing in the world to do, is go out to concerts.
Favorite music group?
Favorite music group of all time is Boys to Men.
Boys to Men. Okay. All right, now Philadelphia boys, East Coast here. Okay.
Who knew?
The good stuff here. New Mexico Official Association or National Federation of High School Sports?
Oh, that's tough.
You can do both. I know it's a bailout. I know that's a bailout.
I have to say both, and I'll give you the reason why. So NMOA is why I am who I am. And NFHS is kind of, it's who I am now, but it's really an extension of me being at the NMOA, and I wouldn't be here if not for them. So I can't separate the two because they're too intermingled.
Fair enough. How important is officiating in sports?
It's critical. It's the third team. Without that third team on the field, court, etc., there are no sports. So it's just as important as the teams and coaches.
In the position you're in, how much enjoyment do you get on watching officials?
On a scale of 1 to 10, probably about a 17. So I love watching officials in any sport, even sports that I don't know the rules very well. Like, we didn't have lacrosse in New Mexico, but watching people do what they love, I just get such a kick out of it. Seeing people who are working hard to perfect their craft, I love watching officials.
What improvements have you seen in officiating?
I think that there's more athleticism in officials than probably 20 years ago. So you see more officials by and large who look like athletes, and I think that that's a huge improvement. Just not only appearance-wise and optics-wise, but also we know that means they're probably going to have a better chance of getting in position to get the calls right. So I think that's been a good improvement.
What does the future look like for officials?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I want to say that the future looks good. I think that there's enough interest. It's something that people are finally paying attention to. I think for a long time people took officials for granted, and I think if there's a positive to the shortage, it's that people are starting to open their eyes to the fact that what's going on is wrong. And that officials need to be respected as part of the game, and they need to be respected as an integral part of the game. So I think that It's not going to be overnight, but I think that I think we have some light at the end of the tunnel, and this time it's not a train, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah. Now, as far as what would you tell somebody that's interested in officiating?
Do it. Find your local association or youth sports league, wherever you can get started. It will change your life. And it's not just the on field, on court that changes your life. It's the family you build. It's the fact that you have a community of people who understand what you do. It's being able to give back to kids and to a sport that you love and be involved in your community. I mean, there's a sense of altruism that comes with being an official that we don't talk about enough, but we only hear about the bad stuff. We hear about the assaults, we hear about the shortages, but when you talk to officials who have done it for a long time, they do it because they love it. They do it because they love the game, but that officiating family is the most special part of my life. Aside from my family, that officials family has been there for every high, every low, and everything in between. And there's nothing like it. It's very special to sport because, high school sports, you graduate and you all go off on your own separate ways. Then you might stay in touch, but that core group of officials you're around, it's your family. They know what you like to eat. They know what you wear. I mean, they know everything about you. And it's such a, if you're somebody who likes to be around people, and if you're somebody who likes to be active and somebody who loves sports, there is no better way to prolong your life and your career as an athlete than becoming an official. It's best seat in the house. And you even get paid a little bit for it. So that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. No, definitely here. Speaking of getting exposed to some more sports here, what's a sport, one of those secret hidden sports that, whether it's an individual sport or a team one, that folks should focus in, or even give an opportunity to give it a try?
So we're seeing field hockey has really become, I'm a huge ice hockey fan. Field hockey has really become a sport that other officials are getting interested in. So if you go to a lot of state championships, you'll hear that, the crew for this field hockey state championship, they were all basketball officials. So it's become a growth sport from an officiating standpoint. It's been really fun being in this office and learning about lacrosse, field hockey, gymnastics, the sports that we didn't have in New Mexico. So I'm really enjoying, watching film. I don't really understand a lot of what they're doing, but trying to learn new sports has been really fascinating for me. And you always equate them to sports that so you're like, oh, this has a hint of soccer and a hint of hockey, and you can kind of start picking it together. But that's been really exciting for me, and I think it's cool to get to know officials in some of those sports that we didn't have, because you just realize how similar all officials are. It's really pretty cool. It doesn't matter what part of the country you're from, what race you are, what gender you are, what sport you do, you're all kind of the same as far as just that love. So it's been really entertaining to kind of talk to people in other sports and just see that passion transfers from football to lacrosse to water polo. It doesn't matter. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. So I'm a yo-yo all over the place here. 400 or 800? Which one did you like?
800.
800. Okay.
The evil race that it is. I loved it. It was a gut race.
I know you got a whole lot more living to do here, but at this point, what's three? It don't have to be the exact three, but what's three of your best moments of your life so far?
Three best moments of my life. I would say marrying my husband. Took a lot of detours and wrong ways to get there, but I finally got it right. So that would be one. Last month I was inducted into the NMOA Hall of Fame, which was huge. Thank you. And I don't say it as a bragging moment. I say it more as a way of just that was for the officials in New Mexico. So being able to be recognized on their behalf, because I really feel like that was something that's owed to 1,700 men and women. I just had the joy of being the ambassador for them. And then third, I would say getting this job, the dream job. So those are three of them. I'm sure there's about a list of 30, because I've enjoyed life and the people in it and the people who have helped to shape me. So I would love to say being able to be born to my parents because I have the best parents in the world, but that would be weird. So, I'm just very much, I'm in love with what I do for a living, and I'm just so lucky. And I have such a good family and friends. Every day, I'm like, this is silly that I have such good people in my life. I don't know. I know that sounds weird, but I guess those would be my top three right off the cuff.
Yeah. Outside of moments here, what's the best part about being you?
The fact that I get to work with officials and the fact that I get to love what I do. And I think I get to share that passion with other people, and I hope that it's contagious. I hope that I can be around other people and make them, make it love it as much as I do.
Yeah. Now, book on your life, what would you call it?
A book on my life? Oh my gosh. Probably Breaking Through the Ceiling.
Breaking Through the Ceiling. Okay. What's the significance around that?
Being a woman in a very not female role. So I think it's just been that, maybe breaking through the ceiling or like proving myself, something along those lines, because it has been a constant process being a female in a very male dominated position. Commissioners of officials, there's only a handful of women who have historically done it. So I think it's just being able to share that and inspire others to know that just because it's not a traditional role doesn't mean you can't do it.
That's right. That's right. Now, Dana, this point in your life, what advice would you give that 17, 18-year-old senior Dana? What advice would you give her?
Stay persistent. Go after your dreams with everything you have in you, and don't get deterred. And I think that's something I would probably tell not just 17 or 18-year-old Dana, but any 17 or 18-year-old is, when you have a challenge, overcome it, and don't let adversity define you. You need to be able to conquer those hurdles and challenges, because you learn more from adversity and failure than you will ever learn from success.
Most definitely here. And my last one here, what'd your parents say about you now?
So my parents would say that they're proud of me, but they would also say that even though I'm 47 and have a career, they would still see me as the stubborn, ornery, loud pain in the rear end that I always was. So I think that my dad will laugh at me because I'll say something and he's just like, he just gives me the, and I'm like, Dad, you raised me. I am my father's daughter. So, when your own father says, I'm so glad we didn't have two like you, I'm like, geez. My sister's very, very mellow. We're very opposite. She's the nicest person. Well, not that I'm not a nice person, but my sister just has this heart and this patience. And I'm the one who's, very like, I kind of have a temper, and I'm very, very stubborn. And my parents still see that, that little petulant 5-year-old that I once was. I think it still comes out, probably especially around them. But I know every day that they're proud of me. But they also, I think I still keep them on their toes.
Nah, you're supposed to, no matter how old you get.
Right? That's part of the deal.
That's most definitely here. Nah, Dana, I just want to say thank you so much, and it's crazy as you were just just sharing a little bit of your journey here, just from a cold email here to me having an opportunity to sit here and talk to you here. Thank you. Like, you've been a blessing for myself, and I add Zarel to that. But just in general, just everybody you probably come in touch with, and I mean, obviously that was just obvious back in April when we was at the consortium, and just all the praise everybody has given you or continues to give you here. And that definitely, I don't think nobody was making it up just to try to get in good graces with you here. I think it was very genuine here. I just want to say thank you for all that you've done and continue to do here. I mean, you talked about obviously the hiccup you had or the mishap in regards not to be able to run anymore here, but you stayed running in other ways. as
Thank
far as
you.
your career and everything else here. So I just want to again just say thank you from the bottom of my heart just for everything that you do and continue to do. And I look forward to what's next to come as far as what you up to, and obviously the federation, even if it's outside of that as well too. I just look forward to whatever you got to come. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh gosh, thank you. Thank you for the time, and thank you for hanging out and talking to me for the last hour. It's been a lot of fun, and I definitely appreciate what you and Zarel are doing. And I was impressed with the two of you the first time we got on Zoom together, and then it was exciting to finally meet you in person in April. And I really look forward to working more with you and finding ways that we can partner to make this thing that we all love better. And you and Zarel have been wonderful to work with, and people who you went from colleagues to people I consider family now. And I'm so grateful for both of you. And I'm here if you need anything. And certainly I know you are in return. So I appreciate everything. And I'm excited about what this second year and this next chapter looks like.
Yes. Yes. So one way or another, I'm sure we'll be in touch here.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right. Now take care, Dana.
Have a good day.
Okay. Bye. That was real cool here in regards to just having an opportunity to talk to Dana and her journey and everything that she's doing here. So I'm just gonna step away. I don't have much else to say here. I'm put my hand over my heart. That means I feel you. Yeah.